I reach the outer fence of the base near late afternoon and stop the cart on the gravel shoulder. The guard post sits empty, the glass in the booth fogged with dust, a clipboard still hanging from a nail. I cut the engine and listen. Nothing moves beyond the wire except a flag tangled on a pole and the hard clack of the chain on the gate when the wind shifts. I give it 2 minutes, then 3. Then I step out with the pry bar and the bolt cutters and start on the padlock. The metal is dull from weather, not pitted, so no one has worked it much. 2 cuts and the gate gives. I pull it wide just enough to push the cart through, close it behind me, and loop the chain twice without a lock. I want a barrier I can drop fast if I need to leave. I slide the pry bar into the spokes of the wheelbarrow strapped to the passenger seat and start rolling toward the motor pool, where the concrete roofs sit low and the doors are heavy. I choose the middle bay because the side bays have long shadows and I do not want to enter blind. The motor pool door is down, but not latched. I squat, grip the handle and lift slow. The springs complain, the sound echoing off empty walls. The bay smells like oil and cold concrete. 2 workbenches stand against the far wall, a floor jack in the center, and a faded stencil that reads, "No smoking." I bring the door down behind me until it rests an inch above the floor, and lay a socket wrench across the rail so the door will not slam if wind or hands hit it. I do not turn on lights. My eyes adjust while I stand still and count 5 breaths. I move along the left wall, checking for doors and dark corners. No movement, no shapes on the floor. I set my pack on the bench and lay out the first hours. Water, light, exits, noise discipline, place to sleep. I sweep the floor with a push broom I find by the workbench. The bristles catch small bolts and old washers. I push them into a corner, then drag an empty pallet behind the tool chest and lay a tarp over it. Sleeping on a pallet lifts me off the floor so I can hear anything that approaches, and I will not be on concrete that holds the night cold. I build a small barricade with 2 tires on rims and a drawer unit. It will not stop a determined person, but it will make noise. I stick a glow stick upright in a jar filled with spare nuts and tape it to the barricade. If the door opens and air moves, the stick will sway and tap the glass. I set a camp stove on the bench, but do not light it. I chew 2 crackers and drink a small amount of water and feel it move down my throat, sharp and clean. The water tastes like plastic from the jug. I hold it in my mouth for a moment, then swallow. I need a map and a higher point to look out. A row of offices lines the back of the motor pool. The first office door is locked from the inside, which means someone left in a hurry. I move to the second. Unlocked. Inside, a desk, a whiteboard, and a corkboard with faded training rosters pinned sideways. The whiteboard still shows a fuel schedule, last marked 8 months ago. The corkboard has a base map with colored pins. I roll it off the wall, lay it on the desk, and note the key. Barracks in 1 block, admin next to it, dining facility across the parade square, armory near the south fence, comms on the hill behind the water tower. I take a photo with my phone, even though I keep the phone on airplane and the battery at half. A photo saves time later. I fold the map and slide it into my jacket. A ladder rises to a catwalk along the top of the bays. I climb 2 rungs, stop, listen, then continue. The catwalk gives view lines through mesh windows above the bay doors. Beyond the fence, an old training field lies flat and open. I see no movement on the road I came in on, and no movement around the parade square. I watch long enough that my legs want to shift, then watch longer, until the wind carries a smell of damp insulation and grass. There is a tall mast on the hill with a small dish and a lightning rod. and a run of cable down the slope into a low block building. Comms. That will be worth the risk when the sun lowers. For now, I climb down and set a triangle of screws in the floor near the pallet. If anyone walks in the dark, shoes will grind them, and I will hear it. I open the tool cabinets. Most of the sockets and wrenches remain. A small lockbox holds spare keys labeled HMMWV and marker. The keys are useless without vehicles, but one key is stamped Fuel Gate. That matters. I pocket it. A lower drawer holds earplugs in plastic. I set 2 in my front pocket, because if I need to fire inside concrete, I will not want ringing to cover other sounds. In the top drawer, I find a roll of duct tape and a pack of zip ties. I take both. I keep a running list in my head and update the plan. Water tower, dining facility, fuel yard, comms, sleep here tonight. Move if sound draws company. I push the motor pool door open enough to slip out and close it again. The sun hangs low and flags shadows across the square. I cross open ground in a slow jog, stopping twice to scan and listen. The windows of the admin building reflect flat light. The door yields to my shoulder. Inside, the air is cooler. I pass a row of offices with nameplates and family photos left in frames. A picture of a man in running shoes with 2 kids. A mug with a chipped handle. I take a stapler for reasons I do not name. The break room has a refrigerator that no longer hums, and a sink that gives a cough of air and then nothing. On the wall, laminated. Shelter protocol, fire evacuation, radio frequencies. I copy the base net frequencies into my notebook, even though I doubt any net control remains. Writing it down clears it out of the mind. The dining facility sits 2 buildings over with a loading bay at the back. I do not go to the front doors. I go to the loading bay and rattle the handle lightly. It opens. Inside, rows of tables are aligned with military precision that has softened over months. A few trays remain with staining that will never wash off. I move past the serving line and into the dry goods. The light from the open door reaches only halfway in. I use a red lens. Cans sit in rows. Beans, carrots, tomatoes. Some bulge, most do not. I take what is safe and set it by the door. I find a case of MREs split open. I do not take the heaters because heaters smoke. I take a box of peanut butter pouches and a sleeve of crackers sealed in plastic. I find a 5-gallon jug of cooking oil that will burn if needed. I roll a blue water barrel and test the weight. Half full. I open the spigot gently and catch the first seconds in a rag to clear the dust, then fill 2 bottles. The sun drops, and the square turns to sheet metal and long shadows. I make one last run to the water tower stairs. I climb, stopping at the first landing to keep my head below the rail while I scan. I climb again, and now the base stretches quiet under me. The gate I entered stands closed but not chained. The road beyond is empty. On the far side of the base, near the south fence, a black line cuts the grass where a burn pit sits. A truck sits near it, nose into a berm. If it holds diesel and if the key still turns, I can pump enough to keep a small generator alive for short runs without drawing from my own supply. I mark the path to it with my eyes, counting buildings as waypoints. 2 barracks, 1 admin, a line of storage sheds, then the pit. A sound breaks the line of thought. Stones shifting against metal. I hold still and lean against the tank. The sound comes again, not from the square, but from the fence line outside the motor pool, where the concrete drain meets the chain link. I see a shape push up and thump into the fence, then slide down, another shape behind it. I stay on the tower platform and watch. The 2 shapes stand irregular, then step along the fence until they reach the corner where weeds hold damp soil. One pushes its arm through the mesh and pulls a strip of loose banner into its hand. The other stands and sways in a way that has nothing to do with wind. I let them be. Distance is safety. Noise travels farther at night and the base holds echoes. I climb down and return to the motor pool by the inner lane, not across the open square. I lift the door, slip in, and set it down quietly. I sit on the pallet and lay out the first meal. Peanut butter on crackers, 1 can of fruit, water measured and sipped. I eat slow, chew well, and let the body accept calories without protest. I pack the trash into a bag and tie it tight. I do not leave food scent near the sleeping area. I change socks and lay boots on their sides, laces loose for quick entry. I put the radio on the bench and extend the whip. No power out here, but the radio takes batteries. I tune through static, past old music that loops from somewhere I do not know, past a preacher who calls out to a town that does not answer, past an empty government channel that still sends a carrier tone once each hour without voice. I stop there and count the seconds until the tone repeats, and then I switch off and set the radio face down. The base breathes differently after sunset. Concrete holds heat, then lets it go. The outer world gets dull and the inner sounds stand out. A drip in the wash bay, the mouse in the wall, the small creak of the overhead door settling into its track. I do not try to sleep. I stretch and relax muscles one by one, starting with the feet, then the calves, then the hands. Every few minutes I stand and move. I check the screws on the floor with the red light to be sure I will hear any shift. I give the night 2 hours to settle, then decide to take the small run to the comms building. If the base has power lines still intact, and if the generator in the comms hut survived, I might pull a weather report or a beacon. If not, I can inventory and leave. I open the motor pool door and slide into the yard. No sound follows me. I move along the building wall, then cross the narrow lane between motor pool and admin. The path to the hill sits behind a storage shed. I step through knee-high grass and onto the service stairs. The comms building door is metal with a glass pane. The pane shows no tape X and no cracks. I cup my hand to the glass and look in. Racks of equipment stand in rows, most dead, one with a single LED. A generator bay sits around back. I ease the door open. Inside, the air smells faintly of dust and warm plastic. The panel lights are dead, but the battery backup shows a charge bar at 20%. I do not throw any breakers. I walk the aisles and check labels. A spare handheld sits on a shelf by a charging cradle. I take the handheld, check the battery, and press power. It lights, then shuts. I slide my battery from my own handheld into it and test again. It holds. The screen shows local channels and an old talk group. I scroll to the weather band. Nothing. The generator bay holds 2 portable units strapped on a steel pallet. One is missing a cover. The other sits intact with a faded service tag. I check the fuel line. Dry. I check the oil. Clean but old. The fuel tank smells like diesel that does not want to burn easily. I close everything and decide to leave it for now. A cold start here would wake the whole hill and bring eyes to the mast. I do not want a mast to point at me. I close the bay door and lock it from the inside, then slip out the main door and latch it behind me with the hasp propped to look locked. On the way back, I cut across behind the dining facility and pass a door marked Range Control. The door is open half an inch. I stop and listen for a long half-minute. The air is still. I touch the door with one finger and push until the latch clicks free. Inside, paper targets hang curled on a rack, a calendar still on April, and a line of lockers with built-in vents. I open the first 2. Empty. The third holds a green case that rattles like metal against metal. I set it on the table and open it. A pump shotgun rests inside with a tag that reads, "Range use only." The barrel is short, but not cut. The stock shows wear, but no cracks. A second compartment holds 3 boxes of buck. I do not think about brand or pellet size. I only think about pattern at short distance and the way concrete reflects sound. I rack it empty to feel the action and listen for grind. Smooth enough. I take it and the shells and a sling from a hook. I lock the door behind me and mark the handle with a small strip of tape so I will know if someone else opens it. Back in the motor pool, I set the shotgun in reach, but not in my hands. I am not here to shoot unless I must. I load 2 shells and keep the tube ready, but not full. I lay the rest aside. I open an MRE and read the menu. Pasta with sauce. I skip the main and eat the side, some crackers, and the dessert bar. I keep the packet of salt because salt matters. I drink the cocoa cold. I run a light cleaning of the shotgun with an oil rag and set it aside on the pallet. Barrel pointed at the door, safe on. I stretch again, check the screws, and finally let the body go to half sleep with one ear on the room. The night moves through hours, one small sound at a time. I wake with first light coming under the door. I sit up and tie the boots tight, then open the door to the morning air. The 2 shapes from the fence are gone. Tracks in the dirt show a pattern of scuffed boots interrupted by drag marks. I follow the path with my eyes and see where it ends at the road. I do not follow in person. Instead, I cross to the admin building to search for a hand pump for the fuel yard. I find a maintenance closet with brooms, floor dry, and a pump with a long metal shaft and a threaded cap. It will fit drums. I sling it and go to the south fence. The fuel yard gate is chain and padlock. The key from the motor pool turns after some work. Inside, rows of drums sit on their sides on racks with plugs facing out. I open the first plug a half turn and sniff. Fresh enough. I thread in the pump and crank a few times. Diesel fills the clear hose. I fill 2 5-gallon cans and cap them. I roll a drum onto a dolly and secure it with webbing. I mark it with chalk so I remember I opened it. On the way out, I spot a small gravity-fed tank with a faded label. I rap on the side with my knuckles. A slow thump answers. Not empty yet. I note it and leave it alone. The noise of pumping carries, and I do not want to stand out here longer than needed. With fuel in hand, I return to the motor pool and pour 1 can into a small generator I found tucked behind a locker yesterday. I do not start it here. I hoist it into a pushcart, run an extension cord into the office, and roll the unit out back behind a block wall where sound will bounce up the hill instead of across the square. I pull the cord until it catches, and the engine shudders to life. The noise is louder than I want, but brief power now will let me charge batteries, run a fan to move air, and test the handheld on a rooftop where I might catch a repeater. I keep the run short. 20 minutes in, I shut it down and listen. The bass returns to quiet. I step into the office and test the radio. Static, then a broken voice. I move 2 steps left and the voice drops. 2 steps right. And it returns. A man speaks in a steady pace. He reads road closures and names of towns near a river to the east. He mentions a convoy scheduled for 3 days from now moving north along a secondary highway. He does not ask for check-ins. It is a broadcast. I write down the time and the route, and a phrase he repeats. Convoy will not stop for individuals. Staging at mile marker 214. I do not know if that means he has a convoy or if he is reading from an old script. I hold the radio low against my chest to feel the small vibration of the speaker, so I will not turn the volume up. When the voice fades, I turn the radio off and sit with the notebook open until the words settle into memory. Movement catches my eye at the far edge of the square. A person moves along the fence line, head down, a bundle on the shoulder. The person steps into view, stops, and looks over the fence like someone trying to spot a friend in a crowd. I pull the shotgun close but keep it out of sight. The person is small, thin, hair tied back under a cap. She moves with intent, not with the irregular gait of the infected. She keeps the bundle close and moves again, scanning the buildings for signs of life. I stay still. If she is alone, she may move on. If she is a scout, more will come. She reaches the gate I used yesterday and tests the chain. It holds. She puts her forehead on the metal and stands a moment. Then she lifts a hand and waves once toward the square. Not a frantic wave, just a signal. I know you are there. I step into the open with empty hands and let her see me. I call out that I will not open the gate until she stops at the center of the road and sets the bundle down. She does. I tell her to turn in a slow circle with her sleeves up. She does that too. Her voice carries low and clear when she speaks. She says her name is Alina, that her brother is out of view behind the berm, that he cannot walk fast, that she only wants water and a look at the buildings for medicine. I tell her I have rules. No one comes in without a check. No one brings old food or old bandages that will draw insects. No one touches the generator. No one climbs the tower without me. She nods. Then she calls to her brother. A man rises from the grass, thin, pale, moving with care. He uses a stick as a cane. He is not bitten. He is dehydrated and worn out. I do not see blood or fever, I decide. I open the gate and keep the shotgun on my shoulder without aiming it at them. I tell them to come slow and stop 10 feet from me. I look at their hands, their eyes, the way they scan the ground for broken glass. People who are a danger often look at faces. People who are hungry look at the ground and at doors. I ask short questions and listen to the answers. Their story fits the road beyond the base. A farm 2 days south, a loss of power, a fire, a run up the highway, a rest under the berm. No heroics, no drama, just facts. I bring them into the yard and direct them to the shade of the motor pool awning. I give them each a measured bottle of water and 2 crackers. I tell them to eat slow and not drink too fast. They follow instructions without resentment. That tells me I can work with them. I lay out the plan for the day. We will not stay long term. We will collect what we can carry. We will fortify 1 building for 2 nights at most. And then we will decide whether to make for the mile marker or hold here and listen. Alina nods and says she can watch while I sleep. Her brother, Oleg, says he can do simple tasks if he sits. That is enough. We move as a small crew. I keep the shotgun and a pry bar. Alina carries empty packs and a screwdriver. Oleg sits on a rolling chair we found in admin and sorts batteries by charge level with a tester I brought. He calls out units in a quiet voice while I build stacks labeled good and not worth keeping. Alina and I go to the medical room behind the dining facility and inventory sterile items. We take gauze, tape, and saline. We leave what we cannot keep dry. We find a hand crank radio in a desk with a cracked casing. I tape it closed and test the crank. It works. We set it by the pallet. At midday, I show them the comms hill and the rules I set for it. No lights, no breaker flips, no metal on the mast that might flash in the sun. I give Alina the weather band and show her how to scan and then stop on noise. She listens with discipline, not fascination, which is good. Oleg stays at the base of the stairs and watches the square through binoculars I found in a drawer. He notes a dog crossing the road outside the fence, a flock of starlings near the burn pit. and a set of fresh tracks that cut across the gravel toward the storage sheds. We do not go there in the daylight. We wait. After sunset, I take Alina to the fuel yard and show her how to pump without making a mess. She asks a direct question. How long do I think the base can stay quiet with 3 people moving around? I answer without softening it. 2 nights if we are careful, 1 night if we are not. She nods. She does not argue. She tells me about a farmhand who died 2 weeks ago from a broken leg because no one had clean tools to set it. She does not cry when she says it. She just tells it and lets it sit between us. We push the dolly back to the motor pool and secure the drums. We take turns on watch through the first third of the night. At some point near midnight, the screws on the floor scrape in a pattern that is not wind. I roll from the pallet and put my hand on the shotgun. Alina is already up, finger to her mouth, eyes on the bottom of the door. A line of light breaks and then narrows. The door is rising an inch at a time. I point at the glow stick on the jar, then at the door track, then at the latch. Alina moves to the far side of the bay, behind a stack of tires, and takes the length of chain we left ready. The door rises another inch. A hand slides under, fingers splayed, and touches the concrete. The hand is thin, gray, with dirt embedded under the nails. It is not a working hand. It is a hand that has not washed in months. I raise the shotgun just enough to use it if I must. Oleg whispers that he left a light on in the office. He did not. The glow comes from a distant security lamp down the lane. The hand withdraws. The door lifts another inch. I step forward, set the barrel against the door frame, and say one clear word in a normal tone. Stop. The door pauses. A face presses to the gap, eye sideways, and then a voice speaks. It is a man, older, unsteady. He asks for water. He does not rush the door. He does not moan. He speaks in a level that shows he has language and balance. I tell him to move to the center of the square where I can see him. He hesitates. Then the door drops. Footsteps retreat. We wait 1 minute, then 2. I open the door and look out. The man stands in the square with both hands up. He is thin. He does not sway. He wears a jacket too warm for this time of night. He has no pack. I keep the shotgun low and tell him to speak. He says he came from the sheds. He says he saw our light, which is a lie, because there was no light. He says he wants water and a place to sit that is not the ground. I tell him I will give him 1 bottle, and then he will leave. He nods too fast. I do not like fast nods at night. I have Alina watch the corners while I toss a bottle to him. He catches it with both hands like a child. He drinks slow, and I approve of that. And then he thanks me and stands without moving from the spot. I tell him again that he will leave. He asks what direction. I point east. He goes west. He disappears between the barracks. We do not follow. Before dawn, I see why he lied. Tracks at the storage sheds show a pattern of 4. 1 set matches his. Worn heels toe out on the left foot. 3 others are lighter, newer. They were watching us from the sheds. They will come again now that they know this place holds people who share water. I take the chalk and draw lines on the base map that indicate fields of view from the sheds to the motor pool and to the comms hill. I place us where we are visible and where we are not. I change our routine. We will not use the generator today. We will not cross the square in daylight. We will move in the shadow of the buildings and keep our bags ready. At mid-morning, a pair of infected hit the fence near the main gate. They do not call others, but they push hard and scrape. The sound climbs into the air. I do not engage. I move to the water tower, climb low, and watch the road. From the south, a truck rolls slow, coasting in neutral. 2 men in the cab, one holding the wheel with a light touch. The truck stops just out of sight of the gate behind the berm where Oleg hid. The men sit for a moment. One steps out and looks long at the fence, then at the road behind. He does not see me. He signals the driver with a flat hand. Wait. He walks the edge of the fence to the south, stooping once to pick up a length of rebar. He walks with a limp. He pauses at the storage sheds and disappears behind them. I climb down before he looks up and sees me on the rail. We hold in the motor pool with the door down. I split the room into positions and assign tasks without raising the tone of my voice. Oleg handles the radio and the notebook. He will record any words he hears, even if broken. Alina watches the door track and the catwalk. I manage the door and the outside if we must step out. We wait. Waiting is also action. Outside, a single knock sounds on the door of the next bay, not ours, the next one. Then another knock, slow and even. It repeats 3 times. Alina looks at me. I shake my head. Another knock comes from the office window behind us. Someone is circling and testing. I move to the office, stay low, and look at the glass. A shadow passes once, then returns. I do not give it any voice to aim at. It moves on. After noon, the radio gives a short burst of speech that is not the convoy voice. A woman speaks fast, then stops. She starts again and says a single set of numbers and a word I do not catch. Oleg writes the numbers and looks at me. I shrug. It could be coordinates, or it could be a keypad code from a building none of us will reach. We listen for an hour, nothing else. In the late day, the 2 men from the truck make their move. I see them through the gap under the door as shadows slide across the lane and pause at each bay. They work quiet. They know how to move on concrete. They reach our door and put hands on the edge. The door lifts a half inch. The glow stick on the jar taps. I meet the door with my shoulder and let it lift only as much as I can hold without showing resistance. I call out in the same level tone as before. I say we are not looking for conflict, that any attempt to enter will be met with force, that we will open for a talk in the square with both sides unarmed and visible. The door drops. The men speak to each other in low voices. One of them laughs once. The sound is short, not joyful. I hear steps back to the center of the square. I open the door and step out with empty hands. Shotgun on the floor behind me, within reach but not visible. Alina is in position with the chain, ready to drag the tire rack if she must. The 2 men stand apart, as if they want to give each other clear lines of fire if this goes wrong. The one with the limp keeps his weight off the left leg. The other has a scar down his forearm and keeps flexing his hand. I keep my eyes on their faces. I say we have water and some food, that we will trade for information. The limping man says there is no convoy, that the voice we heard is an old file, that we should give them what we have and leave before night. I say no and keep my tone flat. The man with the scar lets his eyes flick past me toward the bay, not long, just a twitch. I know he is counting our positions. I move a half step to block his view. I ask what he wants for news about the road. He says fuel. I say 1 can. He looks at his partner. The partner shakes his head a very small amount. I say half a can. The limping man says yes. Scar shakes his head again. I tell them I do not need both to agree. I choose the one who listens. I go get the can. I set it in the center and step back. He limps forward, picks it up and nods. Scar takes 2 steps as if to test me. I do not move. He holds his ground. They leave without turning their backs. Then they are gone behind the sheds and the berm, and then the truck rolls back in neutral until the road takes it. Alina exhales without sound and leans on the wall. I tell her that was not finished. She nods. Oleg asks if we still plan to stay the second night. I look at the base map and the chalk lines. The sheds are a blind spot we cannot cover from here. The comms hill gives visibility, but not accessibility, if someone hides under the stairs and waits. The dining facility is too open. The admin building has too many windows. That leaves the armory, which is locked with a proper door and a cage behind it. Or the water treatment shed near the tower, which is small, windowless, and has an emergency hatch. I choose the watershed for the night. It is not comfortable, but comfort is a peacetime goal. We move at dusk. We layer our packs into two categories: carry always and set down. Carry always holds water, radio, basic medical, knife, and a change of socks. Set down holds food, spare clothing, and tools. We keep the shotgun with 2 shells in the tube and the rest in a pocket. We leave a note under a rock on the motor pool bench. Clean water in the blue barrel. Do not waste it. Kindness will not cost us here. If raiders take it, so be it. If someone like us finds it, it matters. The watershed is a concrete cube with a steel door and a vent at the top. Inside, a pump sits in a shallow sump, and a panel on the wall shows no lights. A small hatch in the floor opens to a crawl space that leads to a drain. I set the packs in the corner and lay the pallet. Oleg takes the first stretch of watch with the radio low. I lie down but do not close both eyes. Alina sits by the door with the screwdriver on her thigh and the chain around her wrist. We do not speak. The base outside makes small ticks and rustles. The night runs. I wake to quiet that is too complete. I sit up and see why. The glow from the vent is dim orange. The sky outside the vent is that color only when fire is near. I stand and press my face to the vent and look. The storage sheds burn in 2 places. Flames move along the roofline with a steady run. That means fuel, not wind, drives it. I tell Alina to wake Oleg. He already sits up, radio in hands, eyes on the door. The fire is both problem and opportunity. It pulls eyes and infected from other places. It sends light and heat and smoke into the square. It also blinds those who stand too close. I say we will not go near it. I say we will wait for the sound that always comes after fire in this world. Steps. The steps come from the gate. Many, not one. I hear a mix of careful and careless. Some are light and quick, others drag. The mix means people and infected, or people who are almost gone. The gate chain rattles, not with intent to open, but from bodies pressing against it. A shout goes up from the shed side. I do not know what it means. The shout repeats. Someone is trying to move a vehicle away from the flames. The flames find the vehicle anyway. There is a small thump, and then a roll of black smoke on top of orange. I keep us in the shed. The air inside warms. I lie flat on the floor to pull cooler air into my lungs. I soak a rag and pass it to Alina and Oleg. We cover our mouths and breathe through it. We wait for the worst heat to pass. Dawn shows a base with new edges. The sheds are gone on one end and still standing on the other, like a row of teeth broken in a fight. The square is scattered with ash and small melted shapes that used to be plastic bins. Bodies lie near the gate, some upright against the fence, some face down. I do not linger on them. We circle wide and pick a path to the comms hill. If anyone remains from the truck crew, he will be low and hurt, and a cornered, hurt person is dangerous. We move slow across the open ground, stop, and listen after every 10 steps. No voices, no vehicle. We climb the stairs and scan. On the road beyond the berm, the truck sits on its rims, stripped by heat or hands. The 2 men are not in sight. The infected that gathered at the gate have moved on or lie still from other causes. The fire took more than wood. The radio comes alive at 8 minutes past the hour. The convoy voice repeats the route again with the same words as yesterday, but with a new detail. No movement south of 184 due to bridge loss. That affects our path if we go east first, then north. Oleg repeats the words as he writes. Alina asks if we will take a vehicle from the motor pool. I tell her no. Keys are easy and fuel is possible, but vehicles are loud, and loud draws more than fire. We will walk the back road to the mile marker over 2 mornings and 1 night, with a stop at a creek or a culvert where we can hide if needed. We spend the afternoon on final tasks. I patch a tear in Alina's pack with duct tape and stitch the edge with dental floss. Oleg cuts strips of towel for bandages. I make a sling for the shotgun so I can carry it hands-free when we climb the hill to look once more. We set caches. One under the motor pool drain cover, water, a can opener, and a note with the date. One behind the dining facility under loose bricks, a lighter, a small knife, and a packet of salt. If someone like us comes through, it will matter. If we are forced back here by weather or a bad choice on the road, it will save time. Before we leave, I go to the armory for one last look. The door is solid. The keypad still blinks red on a dead system. I do not try to breach it. I kneel and slip a folded page under the door with my note. We were here 2 nights. No major damage except the sheds. Water and dining facility barrel. If you return, please leave a sign at the motor pool office. Do not light the mast. It feels important to speak to someone who might come back to this place in a month or in a year. The base held us in its quiet, and I respect that. We step out through the gate at last light and turn the chain in one slow loop so it will not swing. I keep the shotgun under my jacket to break the outline. Alina carries the small pack with the radio. Oleg moves at a steady pace on the good leg, weight on the stick we wrapped in paracord for grip. We do not speak above a murmur. We move on the gravel edge where steps are soft. A mile out, we step into a drainage ditch and wait for a long minute while a pair of infected moves past us on the road, noses up, heads turning. When they pass, we stand and move again. The night on the road is a different world from the night inside the base. There is no echo here, only open air that takes sound away a few yards and gives it to the grass. We cross a small bridge and step down to the dirt under it. The space holds old paint and a crate. We check the crate, empty except for a pack of cards. I put the cards in my pocket. A deck can keep hands busy while feet recover, and that matters. We take turns sleeping while one watches. I wake Oleg after 2 hours. He watches with discipline, not pride. That tells me he will not try to prove something and make noise. In the morning, we walk with the sun at our backs. We pass a field with cut hay and a house with windows boarded from the inside. Smoke lifts in a thin column from behind the trees. We do not investigate. We fill our bottles at a standpipe by a closed convenience store, boiling the water in a small pot on the camp stove behind the building where wind will carry smell up and away. Boiling takes time. We pass the time by checking gear, cleaning a strip of cloth, and cutting a new notch in the walking stick where Oleg's hand sits. Small adjustments prevent big failures. We reach the mile marker by late afternoon of the second day. It stands crooked, numbers scraped by someone who wanted to erase the promise written by the state. The highway beyond looks wrong in a way I cannot fix with effort. The lanes hold cars at odd angles, empty of glass, doors open, grass growing between tires. Nothing moves. I stand with the radio and wait for the top of the hour. When it comes, the voice returns. It reads the route again. It adds one sentence. Watch for red panel at the overpass at 214. I look down the line and count the overpasses on the horizon. One sits with a panel hanging from the guardrail, a sheet of metal painted red and bolted in place. The signal is real. It is not just a file. Someone is putting new paint on old steel. We move to the base of the overpass and climb the embankment in short bursts with long pauses between. At the top, a man in a tan ball cap sits on a folding chair with a clipboard on his lap. He holds himself with the calm of a person who has a plan and is not going to share it all at once. He watches us approach without moving for a weapon. He has one, I am sure, but he does not show it. I keep my hands open, the shotgun on my back under the jacket. I stop 6 paces away and wait for him to speak first. He does. He asks where we came from and how long it took. I answer with simple sentences. He nods. He says the convoy runs tomorrow morning, that it will take on only those who can follow instructions and pull their weight, that there will be no room for debate when it moves. I say we can follow instructions. He looks at Oleg's leg, and then at Alina's steady stance. He nods again and points to a chalk line on the pavement where a number is written. He tells us to stand there at first light with water bottles full and packs closed. He says if we step over the line before he says so, we do not board. Clear rules. Good. We sleep that night under the overpass with a dozen others. A woman with a scar along her jaw sharpens a knife with short, even strokes. A boy of 15 watches the road and keeps his mother's hand near him. An old man counts screws in his palm and pockets them one by one. No one speaks much. We all listen to the air and to the small noises of a world that is not ours anymore. I set the radio to scan and keep it against my chest to feel the vibration. At some point after midnight, I hear a fragment from far west, a city name, a warning to avoid a bridge, an instruction to boil water because the plant is offline. The voice breaks and returns and breaks again. I write what I can and then stop. Words do not change sleep. At first light, engines rumble in the distance, not loud like a rush, but steady like a promise. Trucks appear on the horizon, not uniform, but lined up. Flatbeds with cages, a school bus with windows plated, a pickup with a brush guard and a water tank in the bed. The man in the tan cap stands and lifts one hand. He does not wave. He holds it still until all of us see it. He lowers it when the first truck aligns. Doors open. A woman steps down, checks each of us with a fast eye, and nods or shakes her head. When she reaches us, she looks at Oleg and then at the stick and says he rides in the bus, rear seat so he can put the leg up. She looks at Alina and says she rides on the flatbed to watch gear. She looks at me and points to the pickup with the tank. She says the driver needs a second who does not talk much. I nod. The man in the cap says, "Line holds, then go." We climb aboard. The pickup smells of fuel and rubber. The driver, a woman with hair cut short, glances at me once and then looks back at the road. She tells me the rules. If something blocks the way, we do not stop to clear it alone. If someone runs at us, we do not reach out. If a tire goes, we do not change it under fire. We carry on the rim until cover. I say yes to each rule. She seems satisfied. She tells me to watch the left mirror and call out movement. I do. As we roll, I look back at the base in my mind. The motor pool door half an inch off the ground. The screws in the floor. The glow stick in the jar. The whiteboard with the fuel schedule from a season that belongs to another life. The watershed that saved us from smoke. The note under the armory door. The cash under the drain cover that might help a stranger. The base gave us 2 nights and a plan we could carry. It is not a home. It never was. It is a place that did not argue with the truth. It stood still while we made a path. We passed the mile marker, and I touched the radio in my pocket. I do not turn it on. The broadcast will run with or without me. I look to the flatbed and see Alina sitting with her hands on her knees, eyes set on the road ahead, not on me. That is good. She is already moving forward. In the bus, I see Oleg's hand on the seat in front of him, knuckles white because he holds himself steady over the bumps. He sees me watching and gives a quick nod. Not a wave, not a call, just a nod that says we will hold to the plan. The convoy clears the overpass and turns north, and the day opens into miles of work. We brake and roll and brake again. We pull to the shoulder once while the front truck nudges a car out of the lane with a strap. At a crossroads, a group of infected watches us from the far side of a ditch and does not cross because the ditch is deep and their feet do not trust it. At a farm stand, a cardboard sign reads "Clean Well Water" with an arrow. We do not stop. The driver keeps us in line, and I keep my eyes in the mirror. When movement hits the edge of the glass, I call it out, and she adjusts. We pass a settlement of 20 tents with lines of laundry hanging and a handwritten board listing names and chores. No one raises a weapon. We do not wave. I record the look of it because one day it may be us, and I want to remember what worked for them. The tents in a circle, the laundry high, the entry trail swept clean so footprints show fresh. Near midday, we reach a bridge that lost a section from water undercutting the bank. The lead truck stops. The man in the tan cap gets out and walks the edge. He measures with his stride. He turns and lifts 2 fingers. One at a time, the vehicles cross on the remaining lane while the river runs brown below. When it is our turn, the driver tightens her grip and tells me to watch the rear tires. I watch the rear tires. The truck bumps and slides a bit of gravel. Then the tires find the asphalt on the other side, and the weight transfers, and we are over. On the far bank, a man with a field radio marks a tally on his clipboard and checks the time. The system here is not perfect, but it is a system. It is the first one I have seen in months that asks something of people in exchange for a ride other than begging or threats. We stop once at a rest area. The rules are posted on the side of a cargo trailer in plain letters. No fire except in the drum. No water waste. No music. No weapons handled except at the maintenance stand with a tarp under it. I set the shotgun on the tarp and remove the shells while a kid with clear eyes watches. He asks if it kicks hard. I say it depends on how you hold it. He nods, satisfied with a straight answer, and moves on. I wipe the metal with an oil rag and return it to the sling. I pile our trash in the drum, wait for the heat to catch, and watch as it shrinks into something less heavy to carry. In the afternoon, clouds build in a line and then break apart. The road turns into a tunnel of trees that throws quick shadows over the hood. The driver asks me what I did before. I say I moved boxes in a warehouse and learned how to push a pallet jack without cracking my shins. She says that skill applies here. She does not smile when she says it, but her voice softens. I ask what she did. She says long haul, no home weekends, now this. Neither of us needs to say more. We roll into a staging lot near a town with a water tower that has the mascot of a school painted on it. The trucks park in a line. People step down slowly, not like a sprint, more like a routine. Routine means this is not the first time. The man in the tan cap reads names from a list and checks us off under added at overpass. He tells us to find shade and to wait for assignment. There will be work tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. I feel the pull of rest, but I put it aside. Work first, then rest. That order keeps people from falling apart. I carry panels with 2 others and bolt them to a fence around the lot. Alina organizes the gear on the flatbed into piles by use. Medical, tools, water, tarps. Oleg sits with a young man who shows him how to wrap the leg tighter without cutting off blood. The driver checks the tires, touches each lug with her finger like a habit she learned long ago. The sun drops. A man starts a generator for 10 minutes to run a pump that fills a tank for hand washing. He shuts it down after and covers it with a blanket. No one talks about the base. No one talks about the sheds burning. The past is a set of instructions. The present is a set of rules. After dark, a woman stands on the bed of a truck and tells everyone the plan for the morning. A run east for fuel, a run north to trade for antibiotics, and a static return to this lot by late day. She assigns drivers and seconds. She assigns guard posts for the night with rotations. When she finishes, she looks out over the lot and says one last thing. No hero acts, no arguments in the open. Speak to me or to him. And she points at the man in the tan cap. If you have an idea, speak it calm. The meeting ends. Everyone moves to tasks without lingering to ask for special treatment. I sit on the curb with the radio and run through the bands after 9 o'clock. On a clear frequency, a voice speaks from far north. It says a river town is clear and fishing is possible at night if lines are kept short. It says a church has opened its hall for those who need a dry floor. It says a base like the one we left stands quiet and still, holding a little of this and a little of that, waiting for hands that will treat it with respect. I listen to that last piece and think of the palette and the glow stick and the map with chalk lines. I think of the note under the armory door. A place can lend you its walls for a night. You pay it back by leaving it better than you found it, or at least not worse. When I lie down on the thin pad in the shade of the cargo trailer and close my eyes, I do not see fire, or the man with the limp, or the gray hand under the door. I see the clean line of the screws on the floor, the ready chain in Alina's hand, the neat columns of batteries Oleg counted, the way the glow stick tapped the glass when the door moved. I catalog them like items in a kit. This is how I will move from one place to the next. Listen, prepare, set rules, adapt, leave a note, walk on.